So with that and with this excitement, we will continue with a fireside chat. And we will invite now Vitalik and Jordi to stay in, and no better person to take this fire chat on than Mihailo. Take it on.
Thanks a lot, Grace. I'm not sure that I'm the right person to do this now, given how small was. Super exciting, it's super fun, and actually it turned out very well. Hi everyone. Again, I'm very, very excited and honored to have a very quick chat with two people that I tremendously respect. And I think without further ado, let's go into that, right? So I think maybe we can just start emotionally, if that's fine, then we can switch back to rational conversation. So just tell me, how do you guys feel about what just happened? Just do you have any current emotion that you can maybe share? And what do you think about this event? Is it really an important milestone as we believe? And is it really a gift to the community? Just anything that you can just share about how you feel about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like very happy and excited for what's to come. It's no, the whole ZK-EVM thing is just something that I think we've all dreamed about and talked about for such a long time. And like actually seeing it happen, on mainnet and seeing all of the pieces come together and just work is like just, so amazing.
For me, it's okay. It's a strange feeling because and I've been like dreaming for this moment for 2 years. Okay, but at this point, once you get there, and even the days before, I'm more excited for tomorrow and for the day after tomorrow, and what will happen tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. That we will plan what we are going to do next and how we are built. And we have a lot of things in the backlog because in the last 3 months, I mean, we have been working very much in security and not doing like anything new, just checking and checking the code many times and all that. And we have a lot of things to improve and to do it better and so on. So what's for me the most exciting of this event is that, okay, we will finish this space and we will continue building and improving. This is just a milestone. I think it's an important milestone because it's having something that was impossible. Okay, now it's here. It's a ZK-EVM. It's possible. We can build that. But it's a long path for scale. We are just starting to scale. This is just the beginning. And now we need to really scale. We really need making many transactions going faster. And this is, and this I think is why it's an important step because this will really scale. Well, this is we'll start this age of scaling Ethereum, and we finally will see applications that were not possible because the scaling now make them possible with the security of Ethereum. So that's I think this is a really important moment for the space.
Thanks so much, guys, for sharing this. So, okay, let's switch back to the rational conversation and maybe a little bit more technical. But maybe we can start for the sake. We have more than 10,000 people, I believe, signed up, and hopefully, yeah, that's the info that we got from ETH Global friends, and hopefully a lot of them are newcomers, right? And we want to onboard as many newcomers as possible. So, for their sake and everyone's sake, maybe if you can just recap again, what is the importance of these layer 2 solutions and ZK-EVM itself? Just briefly in your own words, just for everyone, maybe it's always useful to recap.
Yeah, so I think for almost since Ethereum launched, I've been talking about scaling as one of the most important problems for Ethereum to solve. And I think for me at the beginning, like for the first few years of Ethereum's growth, that was definitely pretty theoretical. Right, like we knew that Ethereum had to scale somehow to be able to serve, future millions of people user base. But like at the time, transactions were cheap for the users that Ethereum has. Ethereum worked fine, but then, especially in the last few years and in like the last bull run, like it just became clear how expensive the Ethereum mainnet is. Right, like I remember visiting Argentina and just like seeing how everyone is using a Binance account, right? And like from their perspective, it makes perfect sense because Binance to Binance transfers don't have fees. But at the same time, I think as a crypto ecosystem, we do wants to ultimately move beyond the centralized approaches. And I mean, I'm sure even a lot of people in Binance feel that way as well, right? But making something that's decentralized and hard for and easy for and practical for people to use at the same time is just like so much harder than making something centralized and easy to use, right? And then last year we saw the FTX situation, and we just like keep seeing all of these incidents to just remind us, in a very real and practical way, why decentralized access to the chain being possible and being a reality is just so important. Because if you don't have that, then you have this kind of like decentralized on top of decentralized Frankenstein that seems to just like sometimes be even less secure than just doing the whole thing centralized top to bottom, right? And so I think scalability and decentralization at the same time is like this really hugely important thing. And like for the last couple of years, I think the Ethereum ecosystem has been focused on rollups as a primary strategy for scaling, basically just because Ethereum core developer time is limited. The Ethereum network's ability to handle complexity is limited. And so we didn't want to kind of give every responsibility to the layer one, and we wanted to leave open some room for independent innovation to happen. And so, we've recently had this layer two ecosystem start to emerge. And I think these days the layer two ecosystem has existed for some time, right? But for me, like 2023 in particular is the year when I want to see the layer two ecosystem really mature. And for me, like the biggest part of maturity is like layer two is becoming actual layer twos, right? In the sense of like, you don't just have like some, claim that like, oh, we're going to have a proof system in the future. And like, actually we just have a multi-sig. Like, no, you have proofs, right? And, you have a system where your coins in the layer two are like actually protected by math instead of being, protected by some, group of like, 5 out of 9 people or whatever the number is, where if they want to, go and grab up your $29 million and enjoy a retirement in some tropical beach country that's not Montenegro, then, you don't really have much defense against that. So it's, seeing, I think, Polygon make so much progress from just in terms of improving its security model over the last couple of years has been truly amazing. And it's something that I look forward to seeing the rest of the layer 2 ecosystem do as well, right? And I'm just like excited to see scaling not just be this kind of theoretical thing, but actually be something that Ethereum already has solved in practice.
Such a great recap. Thank you so much, Vitalik. Over to you, Jordi.
Well, it's a magic of engineering. Engineering's, we are not that theoretical. We are just taking the theory and just bringing to the solve real problems. And when I entered the space, it's just for me it was amazing. But because this you can do so many things. But actually, when you want to do the things, you just start discovering the limitations of the space. So but I want to use this because I think it's amazing. So this is what I've been working on. Is what we need to put this amazing technology in people's hands and extend that to that anybody in the world can use it. And you see there are many things, but security, usability, but scaling was fundamental. If you can do just 30 transactions per second, this is not enough. It's not enough for the world, but it's not enough even for a relatively small community. So how do we have to do? And we have been thinking a lot about that. State channels. We think about the plasma. A lot of efforts happens. And when rollups, remember this blog post from Vitalik, some people just working on. They say they happens. It's like we start seeing the light. And it's like this is it's a path there. Splitting the data availability and the execution apart, and okay, it's a long path, but we just took this path. Now, Ethereum Foundation, I think, is doing a great advance in the data availability and so on. And the ecosystem is also working a lot on these rollups and these layer 2s, and everything is looking that it's a long journey, but everything is looking that we in few years, or even months, we can have this technology available to the peoples, and that's, I think that's what's about.
Thank you so much, guys. This was really great. Maybe let's go just a little bit deeper, a little bit more technical. And as we see recently, there have been multiple projects that started working on zk-EVM, and we at Polygon, and I'm sure Vitalik as well, we are very happy that that's the case. But that introduced the need for a little bit of clarity. Ideally, what zk-EVM is. Are there some different types of zk-EVM? And Vitalik recently introduced it and helped a lot on that front by publishing blog posts about 4 different types of zk-EVMs, basically that way introducing at least some initial nomenclature for this great technology. And I wanted to ask you guys a little bit more about that. If you can chime in, both you, Vitalik and Jordi, first about Polygon zk-EVM, where it is, which type of zk-EVM it is, what it's going to be in the future, and maybe about the nomenclature itself. Vitalik, if you now from this perspective, would you consider changing anything in the nomenclature, and just generally how you feel about the whole nomenclature? Basically, does it mean, for example, that the type 1 is by default the best solution, or it's not that black and white? And this generally to chat about that a little bit in the context of Polygon zk-EVM and in general about nomenclature of zk-EVMs.
Maybe Jordi answer the Polygon question first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was this blog post about classifying. I think this clarify a lot of things, because at the moment there were a lot of different rollups doing different things, and the marketing people just putting things and bringing, and this clarify a lot, because at the end, from the technical perspective, is what it is, and the things. In the case of the Polygon, we define ourselves as a type 3. I think we fit very good in the type 3, and we are going in the direction to be a type 2. That's a little bit the path that we are. So the idea is to get closer and closer to Ethereum. We want to implement some precompiled smart contracts that are not ready yet, and there are some small details, this new type of transactions, and there are some small details that we want to get closer to that front. We are going in that direction, and I think this is a good equilibrium. The fact that, for example, in our system, the people don't have to reuse the tooling, so they don't have to use a different tooling, so they can reuse all the Ethereum tooling. So you just use Solidity, or you just use Remix, or you just use Hard Hat, and you just build and you just connect to Ethereum and you go there. This compatibility is really good for the end user. So I think this is a good compromise for having a lot of users using it.
Yeah, so I guess from my perspective, like the way that I would summarize the type system in like one sentence is basically that the lower the number of the type is, the closer it is to basically being an exact copy of Ethereum's EVM. And the higher the number of the type is, the further away from that it is. But the reason why you might want to do a higher type EVM is because either it's easier to develop, or because if you do some things that are a bit different from the EVM, then you can get some efficiency benefits that you can't do otherwise, right? So like the difference between type 1 and type 2, for example, is type 1 requires like perfect compatibility to the point where you can verify Ethereum's existing execution layer. And that involves some like fairly snark unfriendly things, like potentially verifying a huge amount of catch-hack, right? And if you want, you could go and like replace catch-hack with some more snark friendly hash function, right? And that's something that's possible, but probably the correct thing to do for layer 2s today. And like 5 years from now, probably will be even the correct thing to do for the layer 1. But it does mean that today you're not going to be the same as layer 1 anymore, right? So I think like my view of what the ideal is I think the ideal for a zk-EVM implementation is for it to be configurable and support all the types, right? Like I think an ideal zk-EVM would have settings so that if you want, you can turn it on to run with a Kedjak Merkle Patricia tree, and then it can verify Ethereum blocks, or you can set it to run with some more ZK optimized stuff, and it'll be more efficient for you. It'll have like might even have different precompiles, and depending on what you want, and you'd be able to kind of choose to what extent you want compatibility and to what extent you want efficiency, and like that could be that should be more of a project by project choice. And I think it should be possible to make zk-EVM implementations that kind of like make it possible to hit all sides of that. And I feel like it probably shouldn't be too hard to do that if you're like starting from the higher types and moving toward the lower types, right? Because you had your previous code anyway, right? So you just kind of make it open either way.
Thanks a lot.
One of the things that I want to add here is I did myself the exercise of saying, okay, you get all this technology because when you're doing this, you learn a lot. It's a challenge every week. And it's like, okay, with this technology, if you want to do, okay, forget about being Ethereum compatible, and let's try to do an efficient rollup. And let's see how we would do it. The interesting thing is that I would not change many things. The way that we were able to optimize, there are things that probably, yes, I know there are things like memory alignment, and things that are a little bit tricky in Ethereum, and probably I would remove some of these pieces, but not that many. The way that we are computing, for example, arithmetics in different prime field, the way that we are computing Kedjaks, the way that we're computing hash functions, the way that we are working with the storage, the way that we are executing the programs, and it could be some differences, but it should not be. It's much less that you may think when you start it. And that's because the rate of optimization that we get just and being compatible. So for us, the requirement is okay. We want to be Ethereum compatible. That's the specification. So let's see what we can do on that. And we learn that much in this process so we come up to some really good tricks and really good algorithms that okay, this is even better than if we were doing something different to that. So that's a little bit the conclusions that we're getting there. Of course, I mean, there are things that it's a spectrum of things. We should go like piece by piece, but in many pieces it should not be very different.
Thanks a lot, guys. I would have so many questions in addition to this, but maybe let's just touch on one and then we can slowly wrap it up because we have to adhere to the schedule, I guess. We are very happy that we deliver this, right? And we believe we are generally mainnet ready, right? We have multiple external audits, multiple internal audits. We have testnet that has been running for months and all of that. But still, it's very important to say that this is very complex technology. This is new technology that hasn't been delivered before. And it's important to be responsible, right? With that in mind. Vitalik published another post very recently where he speaks about proposed basically milestones for ZK-EVM rollups or rollups in general when it comes to introducing or slowly removing some sort of training wheels and security measures. So I know we have a basic security focused panel in a while, but if you can just one sentence, maybe share your thoughts also about maybe this Vitalik's proposed roadmap or model and just anything in general about ZK-EVM when it comes to this responsible.
Sure. So I think like that blog Magician's post was also motivated by just like seeing this kind of confusion and definitely this kind of like weird marketing situation where there are a lot of different projects in this space that call themselves layer 2s, and they're like people don't really understand like what actually makes a layer 2 a layer 2, what makes it not a layer 2, what makes a layer 2 decentralized, and like and all of these things, right? And the goal of the post was basically to kind of help people sort of like zero in on like the thing that matters, which is security, right? And the thing that matters in security, which is basically this kind of complicated trade-off of when do you put more trust in the people, and when do you put more trust in the code, right? And it's like a complicated trade-off to navigate, especially because we're dealing with this fairly young technology that inevitably has bugs, and probably is going to continue to have bugs for some time. But basically, yeah, the challenge is like, on the one hand, we want to actually start moving away from, just systems that claim to be layer 2s, but actually just like require completely trusting some small committee, right? Like, we don't actually want a system where a 4 or 7 multisig can, run off with $29 million and have a vacation in a tropical island country. But at the same time, like, we want to try to do it responsibly. And if you kind of, on day one, just to get ahead of everyone else, push out a release and say, okay, guys, code is law. And then, people throw in $29 billion, and then it turns out that there's a bug, then like, that's pretty bad too, right? So I think that what I tried to do is kind of structure things and identify a couple of middle grounds, right? So the 3 stages that I identified are, I call them stage 0, stage 1, and stage 2. And stage 0 is basically like full trust the people, right? So basically something that has kind of like the scaffolding of a rollup, and you get some bit transactions, you have backup channels, you have all of these things, but at the same time, there is some kind of override mechanism. And like, ultimately, the override mechanism can decide where the money goes with a 51% threshold, right? So it's like a full training wheels thing. Stage 2 basically says you're fully running on the code. Now, there is like kind of one nuance that I did kind of allow in the stage 2 definition, which is that what you can do is have a mechanism where if someone can prove that the code disagrees with itself, then you can flip an emergency switch and let humans come in, right? But and like, code disagreeing with itself could happen in 2 different ways, right? Like, you could have 2 different ZK-EVMs, you could have one ZK-EVM, and the switch would be like, if someone can successfully prove 2 different state roots for the same data. Like, there's lots of different ways to do this. Or on the other side, if no one submits a valid thing for an entire week, right? That would also suggest that something is broken. But otherwise, like, if the code is the idea would be that if the code is running correctly, the humans have no ability to override the code, right? And like, that's a long-term goal, but that like requires being like pretty confident in the code and the code's ability to not have like certain kinds of really serious bugs. Stage 1 is this kind of middle ground, right? Where basically it's kind of like halfway in between, right? Where for stage 0, you need 51% of the humans to override and move money to wherever they want. For stage 2, you need 101% of the humans, right? 101% greater than 100%, so you can't do it. And then for stage 1, you need 75% of the humans. So the thing that I suggested was at least 6 of 8 where there's enough people in that multisig that are outside of the organization, so that the organization by itself can't just go and move the funds wherever it wants to. And with this kind of threshold, like, you still have the ability to intervene if things really go wrong, right? And like, I've been in multisigs a lot, right? And like, if really serious stuff happens, then like, generally, yeah, you pretty quickly can get almost anyone, right? It's like almost everyone, especially if they're professionals. But at the same time, it's like getting to something like, it's much harder for 75% of people to collude and decide to go to a tropical island than it is for 50%, right? So, it's this kind of middle. And my goal for 2023 has been that, like, I want the layer 2 ecosystem to basically move to at least the equivalent of stage 1. And I think it's okay to stay in stage 1 for a pretty long time, right? Because I think, we do want to be confident that the technology works before we put even more trust in it. But like if you don't have like if you're in stage 0, then you're basically not like really giving any decision-making power to the code at all, right? And like it doesn't really matter if you're a ZK rollup or an optimistic rollup or what kind of rollup. Ultimately, you're just a multi-sig controlled by the Security Council. So in stage 1, you're basically saying, okay, well, you know, we have an actual proof system and the proof system has actual power, but we don't necessarily quite give it all the power. And, you know, if there is room for some Security Council, if there is like strong agreement inside it to override what the proof system says in case of a bug. So I think like stage 1 is this nice middle ground where, you know, we're not just talking about these very centralized things that we've had so far. We're talking about like actual proof systems, whether they're optimistic or ZK, that have teeth and that actually have like a strong influence in what happens on chain. But at the same time, you know, we leave some room for error and we don't kind of trust things fully. And like this is something that I think should be achievable for, you know, both at least many both you know, ZK-EVM and optimistic EVM projects this year, right? Like I've also talked to a couple other ones, and like I know Arbitrum, for example, they want to like open up their proof system really soon, and I think they have some Security Council parameters that are like even more stringent than what the stage 1 requirements are. So you know, I would love to see Polygon you know, really join the stage 1 camp soon as well, and you know, really kind of set the standard for like, hey, you know, you have to have an actual proof system. The proof system has to actually run, and the proof system has to actually have some teeth, but you know, like still in a way where we still have you know, we're not kind of like turning the trust over from 0 to 100% from day one, and you know, we can be a bit careful and still you know, kind of scoot for a couple of years while we make sure that everything really is completely safe, and then we keep going forward from there.
Just to mention here that in Polygon zkEVM is well, it's a stage 1. Actually, we changed the multi-sig this morning in 6 out of 8. It was 4 out of 7. This morning we changed it to 6 out of 8 just to you know, the stage. But we are the cool thing is that we are quite prepared, at least from the code perspective, to be stage 2. Actually, we could be stage 2 if you want. Of course, we don't want to be until we feel safe. We want at least. But one of the pieces that we are missing to be a stage 2 is, well, first of all, we need to enable the forced transactions. We will probably enable in a few weeks, because this is an important mechanism. This is something that we disabled the last minute for some issues, but we will enable it in 2-3 weeks probably. The reason another thing is removing this kill switch. This is probably the hardest part, because I mean, we need to feel comfortable that that the security is there. So this will probably stay. We are setting that want to be running the system at least 6 months without finding any critical issue at least. So that's we will take a little bit while on that. And the other is the time log for the upgradability. Right now is 10 days, and we need to increase that to 30 days in order to be stage 2. But this is so the plan is there, and it's more about getting comfortability of the code, and we will continue running, you know, bug bounties and audits and probably some upgrades in there. So we'll stay here for a while.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely really appreciate the commitment to security, and I'm like, you know, I'm so happy that you know, we finally you know, have a layer 2 with teeth are running on mainnet now. So you know, big congratulations there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both. Again, if I can just share my humble opinion, I totally agree. As we saw, like as Jordi said, Polygon zkEVM is formally, I guess, type 1. A stage 1 when it comes to these wheels. And I totally agree that this targeting basically stage 1 for 2023, as you said, Vitalik, is the wisest, the optimal and responsible approach, because we really want to transition to full safety gradually, right, and full permissionless solutions. Great. This has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you guys so much. And just if you have any closing messages or anything that you would like to share with the community any sort of message or advice or anything, and then we can slowly wrap it up.
My side is just to give a try. I mean, just it's a network, a new network there. It's a zkEVM there. So if you are a developer, if you are a user, and just make a try and see how simple it is just to build on top of the Polygon zkEVM.
Yep. I mean, I have tried like sending 2 transactions, and it's been pretty easy so far. So do recommend.
Thanks a lot. Grace, please take it over.